All right, let's dive deep today. We're going to be tackling something that, well, I'm guessing probably affects every single one of you listening.
Mm-hmm.
Resistance.
Yeah.
We are exploring Stephen Pressfield's The War of Art, a book that's, well, become a bit of a cult classic, really, for anyone trying to, push past those creative blocks and actually get things done.
It's so powerful because it comes from Pressfield's own struggles as a screenwriter. He knows firsthand how paralyzing those blocks can be,
Right.
and he calls that force that keeps us stuck resistance.
And, it's not just about writing a novel or, painting a masterpiece.
No.
Pressfield says resistance pops up anytime we try to do something meaningful, something that pushes us outside our comfort zone. Like starting a business, sticking to a fitness plan, even having, that tough conversation that you've been putting off.
Oh, absolutely.
Resistance is there whispering those doubts and excuses in your ear.
It is fascinating how he defines resistance, not just as laziness or procrastination, but as this almost insidious energy. Right. That wants to keep us small, keep us safe, prevent us from reaching our full potential.
It really is. And he even compares it to like a force of nature.
Yeah.
He gives this really striking example in the book, this woman who's always dreamed of writing music, but only starts pursuing it after a cancer diagnosis.
Wow.
It's like sometimes it takes a major life event to shake us awake and make us realize how much time we've lost to resistance.
That example, it really drives home the point that resistance thrives on fear.
Fear.
Fear of failure, fear of judgment, even fear of success. All these things hold us back from taking those first steps.
So what's the antidote?
Well, Pressfield says the key is to turn pro.
Turn pro. But he's not just talking about getting paid for your work.
No, not at all.
He's talking about a fundamental shift in mindset, isn't he?
100%. What's so insightful is how he breaks down the differences between how amateurs and pros approach their work.
Right.
Amateurs dabble, they let their emotions dictate their actions, they're constantly looking for external validation.
Validation, yeah.
Whereas pros show up consistently,
No matter what.
regardless of how they feel. They focus on mastering their craft and they don't let setbacks derail them. It's about taking ownership
Ownership.
and treating your creative endeavors with the same seriousness you would a paying job.
And that consistency, that is key. It's like that quote from Somerset Maugham when asked if he wrote on a schedule or only when inspired.
Yeah.
He said, I write only when inspiration strikes. Fortunately, it strikes every morning at 9 o'clock sharp.
I love that.
I do too.
It just highlights the importance of establishing a routine and sticking to it, even when you don't feel like it.
Right, even when you don't, making the work a non-negotiable part of your day, like brushing your teeth or going to work.
Yeah.
Speaking of work, Pressfield has some really interesting things to say about the professional mindset that, we can apply to any creative pursuit.
Right. He argues that we all have this professional self that we tap into at our jobs.
Oh, yeah. Think about it.
At work, you probably have deadlines, expectations, a certain level of accountability.
You show up and do what needs to be done, even when you're not feeling particularly inspired.
You got to get it done.
You got to get it done.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to consider how we can cultivate that same sense of professionalism in our creative lives.
Mm-hmm.
What would it look like to approach, your writing, your painting, your music with the same dedication and discipline that you bring to your 9 to 5?
I think that's a fantastic point. And Pressfield actually outlines a set of practical strategies for turning pro
Ah, yes.
that I think are really helpful for anyone struggling with resistance.
All right. So let's dive into those. What's the first step in this pro-level transformation?
One of the most fundamental strategies is simply showing up every day.
Just show up.
Just show up. Pressfield emphasizes that even if it's just for a short period each day, carving out that time, making it a non-negotiable part of your routine is crucial.
He even says, we show up every day. We might do it only because we have to keep from getting fired. But we do it. We show up every day. It's that same mentality.
Yeah, and it's not just about physical presence, but about staying mentally engaged. Pressfield calls this staying on the job all day, which means resisting distractions, maintaining focus on the task at hand.
I think that's where a lot of us struggle,
Right.
especially in today's world, with constant notifications and the lure of social media. It's so easy to get sidetracked.
100%.
Right.
But just like you wouldn't be constantly checking your phone during an important meeting at work, turning pro means treating your creative time with the same respect.
Oh, interesting.
It's about cultivating that discipline to minimize distractions and stay focused on your craft.
So I've got to show up consistently, stay focused. What else does it take to cultivate this pro mindset?
Well, Pressfield also stresses the importance of mastering your technique.
So technique?
He argues that professionals are always honing their skills, studying their field, learning from those who came before them.
It's like that saying, practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect.
Yes. Turning pro means taking your craft seriously, investing the time and effort to become truly skilled at what you do.
Mm-hmm.
He uses the example of Tiger Woods. I mean, even at the peak of his career, he still worked with a coach. It's that dedication to continuous improvement that sets the pros apart.
Continuous improvement, always learning.
Always learning.
So it's a good reminder that learning is a lifelong journey, even when you're at the top of your game. So show up, stay focused, master your technique. This is starting to sound a lot like, well, hard work.
It is. And that's another key distinction Pressfield makes. Pros aren't afraid of hard work.
Right.
They embrace it. They understand that achieving anything worthwhile takes effort, dedication, and a willingness to push through those inevitable challenges.
Speaking of challenges, how do pros handle those moments when things don't go as planned?
That's where another key strategy comes in. Don't over-identify with your work.
So don't let your ego get too wrapped up in the results.
Exactly. Pressfield argues that amateurs often become paralyzed by the fear of failure because they've attached their entire identity to their work. If the work is rejected or criticized, they take it personally, as a reflection of their own worth.
He uses this great analogy of Madonna,
Oh, yeah.
saying that she doesn't walk around her house in full stage Arizona. She understands that Madonna is a creation, a tool for her art, but it's not her entire identity.
Right. That separation that allows pros to be more objective and less emotionally invested in the outcome. They can take feedback, learn from their mistakes, and keep moving forward without letting setbacks crush their spirit.
That detachment can be incredibly freeing, can't it?
Yeah.
It takes the pressure off and allows you to simply focus on the process of creating.
Absolutely.
Which brings us to another important strategy. Don't take failure or even success personally.
So maintain an even keel, regardless of the outcome.
Easier said than done.
It is. But it's a crucial part of the pro mindset. Pros understand that both success and failure are part of the journey. They don't let a win go to their heads or a setback crush their spirit.
Makes sense. I'm reminded of Pressfield's personal anecdote about his experience working on the film King Kong Lives. He thought it was going to be a huge hit, but it flopped spectacularly.
He was devastated, of course, but he realized that the experience, while painful, actually solidified his identity as a professional. He had faced a real failure and come out the other side still committed to his craft.
It's a great reminder that setbacks are inevitable,
They are.
but they don't have to define us.
Nope.
What matters is how we respond to them.
And that's where the pro mindset comes in. It's about viewing failures as learning opportunities, as feedback that can help us improve. Turning pro is about cultivating a resilience, a willingness to keep going even when things get tough.
Resilience, so important.
It really is.
You know, as we've been exploring this whole idea of resistance and turning pro, it's really made me think about like the impact our work can have on the world. You know, Pressfield doesn't just leave us with those strategies and techniques.
Right.
He actually pushes us to consider the bigger picture.
He does. He emphasizes that our creativity isn't just for us. It's something we're, meant to share. He actually quotes the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna tells Arjuna to do the work and give it to him. It's about surrendering the ego, recognizing that maybe our creative work is a gift to something bigger than ourselves.
He even says the work comes from heaven anyway. Why not give it back?
Wow, yeah.
It's such a beautiful way of framing it. It's like acknowledging that, our creativity is ultimately a gift and that we're
of humility and service. It can be incredibly liberating, can't it?
right.
It frees us from that pressure to be perfect or to, seek validation and allows us to simply create from a place of joy and authenticity.
It reminds me of something Pressfield said about how artists are like agents of the infinite, bringing into existence what hasn't been created yet. It's like we're conduits for something larger than ourselves.
It is a powerful way of thinking about the creative process. And it really raises the stakes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If we give in to resistance and don't do the work, we're not just letting ourselves down. We're depriving the world of something potentially valuable.
He puts it pretty bluntly when he says, don't cheat us of your contribution. Give us what you've got.
Mm-hmm.
It's a call to action, a reminder that our work matters.
It does, and I think that's ultimately what makes The War of Art so compelling. It's not just a self-help book for artists, it's a manifesto for anyone who wants to live a more purposeful and creative life.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that each of us has a unique contribution to make.
Right.
And that overcoming resistance is about so much more than just finishing that painting or writing that novel.
Yeah.
It's about tapping into our full potential and sharing our gifts with the world.
Absolutely. And that's something worth fighting for, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive into the war of art,
Yeah.
I'm curious to know what's resonating with you, dear listener. What insights or strategies have kind of struck a chord?
What are you going to take action on?
Yeah, what are you going to do? Pressfield reminds us, creative work is not a selfish act or a bid for attention on the part of the actor. It's a gift to the world and every being in it. How can you apply that principle to your own creative endeavors? Let that be a guiding question as you continue on your journey. Until next time, keep those creative fires burning and remember to always be on the lookout for resistance. We've been talking about turning pro and this idea of unseen forces, but Pressfield also talks about something he calls territory versus hierarchy.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. It's this distinction between, where we draw our motivation from.
Right, like, are we looking outward for approval or are we driven by something deeper?
Exactly. In a hierarchical orientation, we're always comparing ourselves to others, seeking that validation, trying to climb that ladder.
But with the territorial orientation, it's more about being rooted in our own creative space. Right?
Yes. It's about doing the work for its own sake, finding that fulfillment in the process itself.
I love how Pressfield puts it. He says, the artist must do his work for its own sake. To labor in the arts for any reason other than love is prostitution.
Strong words, but it gets the point across.
He uses this great analogy of a three-legged coyote fiercely defending its territory, even against bigger four-legged rivals.
It's about that inner strength, that commitment to our own creative vision. And to figure out if we're operating from that place, Pressfield offers the simple but profound question. If you were the last person on Earth, would you still do your work?
Wow, that really makes you think.
It does. He gives those examples of, like, Stevie Wonder at the piano or Arnold Schwarzenegger at the gym. These are individuals who are so deeply connected to their craft, so in love with the process that they'd keep doing it even if there were no audience, no accolades.
It's about finding that intrinsic motivation, that inner fire that fuels the creative process.
And I think that's where that connection to something larger, that higher realm we talked about, comes into play. When we're operating from a territorial orientation, when we're truly immersed in the work, we tap into a flow of energy and inspiration that goes beyond our ego, our fears.
It's like we're aligning ourselves with that creative force that's bigger than ourselves. So it seems like Pressfield is really calling us to step up, to embrace our creative potential, and to contribute to the world through our work.
He is. He even says, don't cheat us of your contribution. Give us what you've got.
It's a powerful message, isn't it? It's like he's saying that our creativity is a gift, not just to ourselves, but to the world.
And that we have a responsibility to share it.
I think that's what makes the War of Art so inspiring. It's not just about overcoming those blocks. It's about embracing a way of life.
A way of being.
It's about showing up, doing the work, and trusting that something greater might be at play.
And that's a journey worth taking.
Well, as we wrap up this deep dive into the War of Art, I'm curious to know, dear listener, what's resonating with you? What insights or strategies have kind of hit home?
What are you going to do differently? How are you going to turn pro in your own life?
Let that be a guiding question as you move forward. Keep creating, keep pushing those boundaries. And remember, the resistance is always lurking, but so is your potential. Until next time.